Ace Podcast.
Tell me, Paul, what do you see?
I see the woman I'm going to marry.
Oh, promise me. Promise me if anything should happen to me.
Nothing's going to happen.
No, promise me still. You'll take care of Chelsea.
Of course, I promise.
I love you.
And I love you.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Death Wish 5, The Face of Death. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from the newsdeadworld.net, and I'm joined with my co-host, Martin.
How's it going?
He just took a sip of beer, so he's a little late on the delivery there, but So we're back. We took a week off last week. Unfortunately, within the Death Wish series, we kind of had to do a little hiatus. I had a family emergency, so really we weren't able to record and podcast for last week. And if you don't really know behind the scenes for the show, we do everything the week that you hear it. So we're not like working into the future or anything like that. It's basically when this podcast episode goes up, we did it like the night before or somewhere around there.
It's like South Park.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We don't work. We don't.
5 days to air. It's one day.
Yeah.
3 hours.
We don't work in advance. So, yeah, it makes it tough if like we're really busy or something. But shit happens. And last week, unfortunately, we were not able to finish our Death Wish series, and so that kind of pushed back our plans that we had talked about, including doing something for Valentine's Day. Which has already come and gone now, if you're listening, and some of the other stuff that we had planned on doing. So it pushed it back a little bit, but we're back today.
Gonna keep plugging on.
That's right. We're going to do Death Wish 5, The Face of Death. And that's going to finish out our Death Wish series. It's the last movie in the series, and as we get into it, you'll understand why. That it's the last Death Wish film. Yeah, I mean, you said you've seen it before. I've never seen it before. You couldn't remember it.
No, not at all. I've always seen it once.
And I mean, I understand why you couldn't remember it. It's not a very memorable film. Like, you're not going to come away from this thinking, wow.
Nothing will jump out of you in this film.
I mean, I just watched it and really nothing jumps out at me. Like, we were trying to come up with an intro for the show like we normally do. And while Death Wish, the series, has had... It's difficult to come up with a funny introduction anyway with the film series. Death Wish 5 is really stretching it. It's like really hard to come up with like a line or a moment in the film where you can really throw that into the introduction and have people laughing about it. Because there's just nothing in it that is memorable. Nothing jumps out. Dialogue is not so good. Which we'll talk about later. But yeah, we had a really difficult time coming up with an introduction. So we went basically with a really wooden performance from Charles Bronson, who has always been sort of wooden, but in Death Wish 5, he's the most wooden I think he's ever been.
By far.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't have any inflection in his delivery. Almost like he doesn't care whatsoever.
He's finally lapsed into full, not sociopath. He's now a full psychopath.
Yeah,
just numb to everything.
Yeah, he doesn't care about anything at this point. And we chose that clip of him saying "I love you" to his girlfriend, well, fiance actually, in the film, because it has no emotion behind it. Just totally no emotion whatsoever. Doesn't. Nothing there to actually say, like, he actually loves this woman. And I said, really, he's already gone through 4 other women or so. So what's the difference here?
Just another day.
That's right.
Another day in the life of Paul Kersey.
Yeah.
And I love, too, the fact, and we'll talk about more, it's just kind of like the fact that law enforcement's accepted. Like, oh, you're the guy that kills people. What a scamp.
Yeah, he's back in New York City in this film. And they haven't forgotten about him. That's the key. They haven't forgotten about this guy. They know about him, and they're like, hey, it's Paul Kersey. We've heard about you before.
At least, like, in the first two films. Yeah, no, first two films, they're like, oh, can't have this guy doing this.
Yeah.
Now there's like, hey, how's it going?
I know.
Paulerino.
I know. It's pretty surprising.
This is a terrible way to end the Death Wish
franchise. It is a bad way to end the film.
Franchise, just like...
Yeah, the franchise in general. We'll talk about that, like, the reasons why behind that a little bit, but first, I want to kind of recap what we've done so far, because we've done the first 4 Death Wish films, so I kind of want to talk about how we felt about each of them in general. So Death Wish 1.
Masterpiece.
Probably the best out of the series.
Not probably, it is.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And even though I wasn't like a giant fan of that film, I thought it was pretty good and a good indication, or not an indication, but like a good point in film history that you can kind of go to, sort of like what we talked about before, Dirty Harry. Same concept. This is one of those films that you're going to refer to from that time period in the 70s and talk about this was action exploitation at one of its best moments. So I think Death Wish 1 by far was probably our favorite out of the...
And I like it more than you. I think it's... Yeah. And I'm not tossing around masterpiece loosely. I really do think, and I can see when you're coming from watching it, seeing that it's got problems, because it does. It's got some problems with it, but I think overall it's a very good film. I think it's well done. I think, as you said, it encapsulates, especially the early 70s and that like vigilante exploitation genre perfectly. And I think it's definitely one that, like, again, like when you think of the big like vigilante films, what are they? As you said, Dirty Harry, Taxi Driver, Death Wish. Yep. Those are the big 3. Yeah. And although I don't think Death Wish is as good as the other 2, I don't think it's as bad either. Mm-hmm. I think Taxi Driver's the best out of them all, but again, I think they're all great. So
yeah. So Death Wish 1, very good film. We moved to Death Wish 2, which is probably one of the worst in the series, and Death Wish 5, which we'll soon discuss, may be worse than Death Wish 2. It's a kind of a toss-up between the two. But Death Wish 2 really moves from vigilante to revenge at that point, and is sort of a loose copycat of the first one, but trying to be a little bit more action-oriented, and it doesn't work very well.
It's terrible, doesn't work at all. The only thing that's really good about it is Jimmy Page's opening score for the film.
Yeah,
everything else, I have not. And everything else about the film is misplaced, mistimed, misread, just inappropriate. Like inappropriate use of score throughout the entire film.
That's right. That's the eclectic score that's just all over the place.
Yeah. And at each scene and every second of the film, so there's like not a moment of silence to be found, and it's very taxing and daunting. It doesn't help in that film. Everybody in the film is totally boring and wooden, except Lawrence Fishburne, who has a very minor role in it. And, but overall, it's literally they took the first film, put it in LA, and just said, how can we take everything that was good about the first film and make it fucking god awful.
That's right. Yeah, they definitely took the wrong step in making that film, and it did happen years later. So there's part of that, but more so, it's just a bad film altogether. Death Wish 3, step up, actually.
Fun.
Yeah. Surprising, because you're not really expecting that it gets incrementally better from Death Wish 2. You're thinking, oh, wow, Death Wish 2 was bad. Same director, it's probably going to be worse.
And at the same time, though, it's kind of like, it can't get any worse.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but again, though, I mean, after Death Wish 2, it's like you've hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And Death Wish 3 is like full-blown parody mode now of the Death Wish franchise already. And it's campy, it's corny, it's over the top, it's cheesy, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable. Like, Kersey's gone from being your average common Joe who's just fed up with muggers and rapists in New York City to a guy that's running around with a fucking machine gun mowing down and blowing up half of fucking Brooklyn.
Yep.
Just because this gang's out of control there. And it's great.
It is, yeah. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of just action scenes for the hell of it.
The whole last 15 minutes is just one big fucking shootout.
And I think a lot of people would find that film fun because there's not really much downtime to it. And that's kind of what you're looking for in like an 80s action film. Like, you're not really expecting it to be like heavy on storyline and, you know, very
Character
in-depth.
development.
Yeah. No, I think this is that it's like a perfect action film from the 80s. If you're looking for something like that.
And you can't even say over all these films that Paul Kersey as a character has grown. He hasn't. The first film, especially in all the descriptions that you read it, they don't say that Paul Kersey is just a regular guy. They're like, he's a bleeding heart liberal.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you watch the film, it's like, no, not really. No, he's just your guy who, he was a conscientious objector in the Korean War, but I mean...
No, I mean...
So, like, if that's all you're to glean from that makes him a bleeding heart liberal...
Yeah.
I mean, if... It's not really there, but I mean, if you just take his character from where he is and then where he goes to in the first film... That's his progression as a character, which makes sense of that film.
Yeah.
Throughout the franchise, though, there hasn't been any growth after Death Wish 1.
There's no growth, and I think that's probably something that's good about Death Wish 3, is that it doesn't really try at that point to make him seem changed or different. It just kind of rolls with it. Death Wish 4, which we covered last time.
The
Crackdown. It's not my favorite of the series. I really think that it's kind of stupid.
It's fun. Again, like Death Wish 3, it's fun.
It is fun. I think I personally found it a little stupid because now he's acting like a spy.
He's a hitman.
Yeah, he's like a hitman that's just given orders for no reason, really, because we've seen him before act on his own to just do the same sort of things.
But I guess in the film's own twisted way, it's trying to argue, well, he's still a vigilante because somebody, you know, his significant other at this film's point, daughter died of fucking crack overdose. So, you know, him taking on these hits, he's not really a hitman. He's, you know, he's still a vigilante, even though it's not the case. But I still, like, Death Wish 3, I think it's fun. And I just love the fact that from Death Wish 2 to this film, there's such a just overall tonal shift and change and direction. Like, each film... From, like, Death Wish 2 to 3 and 4, they all feel like they could just be standalone films.
Yeah.
That they don't have to be even connected to the Death Wish franchise.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really need to be...
Because Death Wish
4, it doesn't really need to be a Death Wish film.
No, because it's just him being, like, all of a sudden now he's a hitman.
Yeah.
Just taking down drug lords. That's, like, a typical, like, that's, like... They saw Miami Vice, like, let's make that into a low-budget movie. Mm-hmm. That's what they did.
Yep. And that takes us to Death Wish 5, The Face of Death, which we'll cover in just a second, where we're going to take our usual break to talk about alcohol.
What we're drinking.
So, I don't know if you've heard, but Sam Adams has had, for the past couple years now...
It's really not like 2, maybe 3 years now.
2 or 3, yeah. They've had this thing called the Rebel IPA. It's their West Coast style IPA that they have been making, and it's basically become their, like, regular IPA style. And now they have, like, different versions of the Rebel series.
I feel like they promote it more than they do their Boston Lager now.
Yeah,
like almost
it's really heavy on there.
Almost like they want that to be their flagship beer.
I guess, yeah.
Which is sad because their Boston Lager is.
It's really good, yeah. There's a reason why it's lasted so long, the Boston Lager. Yeah. But the Rebel IPA, they've been marketing it quite a bit. It turns up in some of their packs. You know, they have an actual Rebel pack right now that has, like, the Rebel IPA, Rebel Grapefruit, And some of the other ones too, like Rebel Rider, maybe. I think
Rebel Rider, which is the, I believe the Rebel Rider is the session. The Rouser
is the double.
Yep. We've reviewed before the Grapefruit Rebel.
Yep.
They have a new one, the Juiced one, which is a citrus mango juice in one. Which I thought about picking that one up too, but I thought
we have not had that one.
I thought about picking that up for the podcast, but I'm like, no, I want to get that because we're going to Beer Fest next week, next on the 25th.
Yep.
And so
Saratoga Beer Fest. So if you're in the area, hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah,
we'll meet up with you.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Hand out some cards and.
That's right. Well, no, we don't have cards made up. I didn't make them up.
Well, get on that.
They're not going to be here in time.
Hit up Staples. They got that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to order from Vistaprint because they're cheap in there. They have good stuff. Actually, I may be able to order and may still get them.
But anywho, I don't know what they're going to have. Either the Rebel IPA there, or they're going to have the juice. One of the two. Because
I would assume, one of the two, or both, because sometimes they bring two.
That'd be lazy.
2 Rebels, you mean?
Yeah, no. They usually have. Most places have like 2. I don't think I've ever seen a beer at the stand. Beer stand that's only had 1. Usually 2's the least. 4's usually the max.
I think they'll probably have 2, and they'll probably go like a spring beer that they have, and also the Rebel IPA. That's what I'm thinking. I almost don't think that they have
probably be the Cold Snap.
I almost don't think they're gonna have the juice there. To be honest with you,
it's new though. That's why I'm thinking.
Yeah,
it might, but
it's possible, but I don't know if they will. But anyway. The Rebel IPA has apparently gone through a new transition for 2017. They do have a new label, a new look for the Rebel IPA bottle. It sports a nice eagle silhouette on it. It's brewed for the revolution, as it says. And the revolution, I'm not sure what they're referring to. Are they referring to revolting against Donald Trump? Are they referring to the New England Revolution, soccer team?
I would almost feel like
Jim Cook's probably for Donald Trump, probably putting some money in his coffers.
I imagine.
Yeah, I would think so too, honestly. Sorry, Jim Cook, if you
are. I mean,
maybe he's a bleeding heart liberal and we just pissed him off into
or he could be a
total vigilante.
There is something called a moderate.
Is there? Yeah. Can you be anymore?
There are centrists still out there.
That's right.
They're the true silent majority in today's fucking oversaturated politicking online, but
whatever the case, whatever brewed for the revolution means, the Rebel IPA has gone through a new look and also apparently a new recipe. And specifically, that's why Martin sought it out for this podcast episode. Because I believe we've already done the Rebel IPA on here once before. And again, like we said, it's a very common Sam's.
And I haven't had it probably since then.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a Rebel. I think I actually ordered it in a restaurant on tap once, not too long ago. But to break it down, the Rebel IPA is a Western IPA. And the new formula tastes very similar to me.
I don't taste the difference.
From
what I said, as I said, I haven't had it probably since then because I mean, and I've said it before in the podcast. I have nothing against IPAs. I do like IPAs.
I like IPAs. I often order different ones.
But I have been IPA'd out. I'm kind of starting to get back into a more IPA trend because I've stayed away from them for like about a year and a half for the most part. So I'm more kind of like when I see one now, I'm more like, oh yeah, I'll, have that because I'm starting to get in the mood for them. But just from what I remember, it literally tastes the same.
Yeah.
Just like a very standard West Coast style IPA. There's honestly nothing like that jumps out to me. That one makes this new recipe stand out from the old one.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but makes it even stand out as like an IPA. It's just kind of like, it's there.
I mean, I think it's good. I think it's all around a good beer. And I've got to give Sam's the benefit of the doubt and say that, yeah, they probably did change up their recipe a little bit. I do feel like maybe there's a little bit more citrus forward taste to this. Maybe they're using the Citra hop in this one. I'm not really sure, and I think that's part of the thing with this Rebel IPA is when you mark it that it's got a new recipe.
I mean, Beer Advocate says it's more intense, juicy, and tropical citrus, and I don't really feel it's more citrusy or tropical.
I do feel this. I get the citrus to it, and maybe it's us. Maybe I will be the first to admit I don't have a great deciphering palate. So if you were to give me like beers with specific hops in them, I wouldn't be able to pick that out.
I don't think
I can't tell you like that's the specific hop that you're looking for.
I don't think most people could unless they drink. One of the reasons why Genesee is coming out with their smash beer, their single malt, single hop beer, is because so it can focus on one hop, and so that way people can like learn kind of.
I honestly think that's a really good idea.
Learn like what like that certain hop characteristics are, and so then when you get like an IPA, it's got like 4 different hops in it. Then you're like, oh yeah, that does have like I can taste that hint of hop and that hint of hop there.
Too often we're combining so many hops together and just hopping the shit out of it with different kinds that you're not. Like, now, our palates have a difficult time registering the specific hop that's in there. The specific taste of that one hop. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, it's the same as, like, having a single malt scotch. You're getting that single malt. You don't have to... Your palate's not searching around like, well, what does that taste? I'm not really sure.
Getting hickory here, and shoe leather over here.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm really excited to have styles like that are... And I wish that some other places would do that, is just go with that single hop. Like, this is the Citra Hop IPA. And that's it. It's only Citra Hop. Even if some of them aren't very good, because... Maybe certain hops aren't specifically designed to work as a single. I still think it's a good idea. I still would be all for it.
No, I totally agree. Because again, that way you can if you try a more complex hop beer, you then if you're drinking like a Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA, you can I can taste the certain subtleties in the.
Absolutely,
I agree.
I think it's a good idea. I think I'm excited for that because I really do. I think. That could be a selling point, too, for breweries. Is like, all right, here's the one hop beer, and it has this specific hop in it. Now you're going to get even more different kinds of beers that you can market. You could even have an IPA pack
that's just nothing but single hopped IPAs.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Or pale ales.
I don't know why people haven't done that before. I think it's a great idea.
You know what? We'll sell it to them.
That's right.
Not just Boston Beer Company. We'll sell it to all of them and see which one picks it up. Like, that's not a bad idea.
Obviously, the logistics of it are difficult if you're a smaller brewer. Trying to have vats of, like, only single hops. But I really do think it's a good idea. I think that more should try doing that. Instead of just going balls out, like, we're going to put 4, we're going to put 5, this is 7 hop. Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
Every hop we have on the farm, we fucking threw in there.
Yes. But going back to the Rebel IPA, I don't think that it is different enough to really sell somebody on it now if they didn't really like the Rebel IPA before for whatever reason. It's just... I would need a side-by-side taste test to really decipher a difference between them, but I don't know that I could. I do feel it's a little bit more citrusy. Other than that, though, I don't really see that much of a difference between the two. I still like it. I'm not going to say I don't like it. I'm not going to say it's a bad beer.
No, I agree with those thoughts, but at the same time, like, again, would I get this? No. I would never
go out of your way
to get it.
To get just the Rebel IPA again. No.
No, if I was like at a restaurant though, and I asked for a Sam's and that's all I had, then I would probably say like, okay.
Oh yeah.
But sorry, I would not be able to say I would go out and fucking shell the $17 on a 12-pack for them. No, I can't do it. Can't do it. There's just other pale ales and IPAs out there that I just...
Yeah, I've got to say that the allure of a regular IPA now has really kind of thrown me. I'm not really interested in just a straight IPA anymore. I'm interested in trying those new flavors. Like, just yesterday, I went to Top Notch Tavern, which is a nice steakhouse in our area. They had a really good beer selection. And I went for Dogfish's Flesh and Blood because, first of all, I'm a huge blood orange fan, which is what Dogfish has in their Flesh and Blood. It's a blood orange IPA.
Which I've never seen that around here before. So
I mean, I've had one before, but it's not really common. So that's why another reason why I was like, yeah, I want to try that, because it's not a common IPA style. I will say that I definitely had an orange flavor to it, but a strong blood orange flavor. I wouldn't say it had that. I think really what the Dogfish Flesh and Blood was doing was that it was the blood orange has kind of like a tartness, and that tartness cuts the hop bitterness.
Would you say it's better than the Sierra Nevada orange IPA we had like not that long ago?
I would say it was different.
Because as I say, if when we talked about it, when I brought it on the podcast a couple weeks ago, I said we couldn't fucking find that orange at all.
Yeah.
It was buried in the hops.
Yeah, I would say it's different. I think the orange does get lost a little bit in the hoppiness, but I think it's more so to cut that bitterness of the hops. I thought the Dogfish Flesh and Blood was pretty good, to be honest with you. I thought it hit the spot. So I would recommend that. But again, I wouldn't say that it has a super strong blood orange flavor to it. And I'm a huge fan of blood orange.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's still good. I would definitely recommend it. Reasonable prices there too. $6.50 for a beer, which is pretty reasonable considering that it's a expensive steakhouse
and an expensive beer.
Yeah. I would say most Dogfish around here at least is pretty expensive. Like if you were to get a 6 or 12 pack.
Well, they don't have 12 packs around here. It's just 6 or the 4 packs if they're the,
specialties.
Yeah, they're like $13 a pack.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've had interesting is the other day I went to Druthers Brewery.
Yep.
For lunch with a friend, and I had their Bock. It's pretty good. It's I would compare it to Jenny's Bock actually quite a bit. Though it's much more maltier and kind of crisper, like a more it makes it sound like I'm bashing the Jenny Bock, which I love, but it's more refined in that quality. But like if you looked at it and drank it, it's basically tastes like a Jenny Bock, but it's just got like a slightly better maltiness to it, and it's a much more like crisper when you and I mean it like just in like it feels heartier than like Jenny's Bock, where it's much more like you can session it much easier. It was really good. I liked it, and friend there got their it's not a Scotch, as I said, it's not a Scotch ale, but it's like a Scotch beer. I took a sip of that. I didn't think too much of it. I thought it was just kind of didn't really have any flavor to it, but apparently it won silver at the Beer Olympics, not this year. So, what do I know?
In beer news, what I just saw today, Walmart has a lawsuit going on right now. Did you see that? Because they were marketing craft beer when it really wasn't.
Yeah, they have a craft beer line. Yeah, not just
beer in quotation marks.
Yeah, not just the Rockdale that we reviewed,
which I've never seen, to be honest.
No, they have.
With you.
Yeah, that Cat's Away IPA.
I don't recall ever seeing that.
They have it. Like it's not when you go like into our Walmart and they have like the beer and they have that side beer shelf with like the other craft beer. Yeah, like, mainly. That's what it's on. I always wondered who made that. Then I was reading the article. I'm like, oh, so they make that stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're getting in trouble because actually a company owned by Jenny makes that. And they are marketing it as craft beer, and it's really not, because it doesn't have the qualifications legally of a craft beer brewery.
I love that they're so stingy. Like craft brewers are so stingy on that.
Yeah,
like they they take up in arms about that. Cause I remember like last year when they were like talking about like all the craft breweries that are getting bought up by like Anheuser-Busch and all that, and they're saying like you're fucking destroying what it means to be craft. And I do like that. I do like in my own little hipstery way that they're like, no, that's not fucking craft.
Yeah.
You're making an IPA that's good and stuff. Is a craft? No, because that'd be like saying, if you went and got a whiskey and called it like single malt Scotch, and it's not really single malt Scotch.
Right,
you're gonna get in trouble.
You're getting in trouble for that because you're falsely marketing it.
Yeah.
People buying Well, I think really the big thing with the Walmart beers is that they're upselling it for a subpar product, really.
I never had it, so I've
never had it either, but I think that's really what it comes down to, is that you're buying a beer and at a like a higher price, expecting it to be like better quality than it really ends up being.
It could be good for all I know.
It could be, yeah, and I've never had it, but that's from the article that I read. So that's pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty funny. And the other thing that we've recently seen since the last podcast is that there's a new beer website out. It's called October, and it's from the makers of Pitchfork and beer in a beer podcast. And I've read a few articles. I read the first few articles that they posted on there, and I've got to say that while I find it interesting, and I always find writing on beer interesting, I do think that the reviews are a little bit exaggerated sometimes, and very wordy, and
does anyone
overall just what you would consider pretentious. Yeah.
Does anyone take Pitchforks' reviews seriously?
I don't know.
Look, because I haven't read them in a while, but I used to read them not because I was like looking for like a validating opinion or to see what they thought, just to read some of like the bullshit they would spew. Like, but just like, okay, like for instance, like all the like when they review like Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, masterpiece, 10 out of 10, how it's like the standard bearer of avant-garde post-rock in the 2000s. You've read like that before.
Yeah.
And I agree. I love that album. I think it's great. I don't think it's Wilco's best album, but it's good. Then you read the review on Sky Blue Sky, like 5 out of 10. Dad rock noodling around, and and it's like they're not that like so dissimilar to where like you would make like that big of a leap in that, and I just always find like the reviewing funny because when they do it, it's like so pretentious. Again, like some of like earlier articles I've read, like reviews of like old Kinks albums, and some of the worst Kinks albums are like 10 out of 10 misunderstood masterpieces, like Everybody's in Showbiz and the Preservation concept albums. They're not terrible, but they're not fucking masterpieces either. And I'm pretty sure even Ray Davies would be like, that's not good. They were okay. That's why I kind of stopped that after a while, doing concept albums. Got out of hand.
But I mean, I gotta say, like, October's not written by the people that do Pitchfork. It's just more like a producing credit on it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's still got to. I guarantee it's gonna have the people though that.
No, I mean it does. It does have a pretentious air to it, and I the one thing that really made me turned off by it was like some of the metaphors that they're using for like drinking beer, and also they gave one beer a 99 out of 100, and this was like one of the first reviews they ever did. So that's a pretty lofty goal right there. Is that one of the first beers you've reviewed is a 99 out of 100?
What subtracts that 1 point?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, it's just I think it's cool that they have a new website like that, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, to be honest with you. I thought it's an interesting concept. I do like some of their articles about like tasting the some of the things that can really mar your beer, like oxygenation and stuff like that. They had a cool like, it was kind of like a how can you tell if your beer is not like fresh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And some of the other like think piece articles on beer.
Here's an easy way to tell if your beer's not fresh. Are you from a bumblefuck area like we are?
Yeah.
Are you ordering something that's probably hasn't come out of the keg in fucking a year?
Yeah.
If so, your beer's probably not fresh.
Yeah.
If you live in a city area, which most of the people who probably write and read this shit is for, your beer, no matter what you're ordering, is always going to be fresh.
Yeah, they were talking about...
There's always going to be that, like, one person that's killing the keg at, like, some random bar in fucking Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Some random-ass beer that's brewed in some dude's apartment 3 doors down.
Yeah, they were talking about, like, how you should really buy from local breweries. It's like, oh, really? We should? We gotta drive, like, an hour for our local brewery.
I'll buy from whoever makes good beer.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're local.
Well, they were saying like getting it like a growler straight from the source rather than bottled. But it's like
that's such
for us,
that's a rigmarole.
Yeah, for us that would mean me taking a weekly trip.
$20 on a fucking growler for like either Browns, Davidson, whatever.
Yep.
Then Druthers, then driving. Druthers is the closest, it's 35 minutes away.
Yeah.
But even if you want to like say go to Browns, 45. But you want to go to fucking Davidson, hour.
Yeah.
Or Adirondack, same
hour. Yep.
Yeah, hour. Driving all the way up there. So you're wasting basically the growler amount on gas just to go to and fro there.
Yeah.
Then pay $15 to have that fucking filled, and then go.
Yep.
I mean, and
not only that but buying a growler for each one because they won't fill each other's.
Yeah.
Like with like if I brought a Browns growler to Adirondack, they wouldn't fill it.
Yeah, of course not, because they'd be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Buy your own. Yeah, because they want you to buy theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few places around here. Like beer stores that do have like growler
like a tap, yeah.
But I mean, even still, it's not like they have anything like that's worth getting in a growler. You can
not
get
generally, yeah.
And even then, that's like another question. Like, is that beer fresh? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
That Dogfish had 60-minute IPA. It's probably been
it's been there for a few months now. They're trying to get rid of it. So. All right, we got to get into the actual movie itself. So we're running long on beer talk. Next week we will be back to talk about actually not it won't be next week, but it will be the week after because we're going to Beer Fest this Saturday. Not this Saturday. Next Saturday. Sorry. Getting my dates mixed up, and then we will be back to talk about that and what we've had. So tune in for that definitely.
Be a lengthy discussion.
That's right. Now let's get into Death Wish 5: The Face of Death. I gotta say, I like that pun quite a bit. Because in this film, a woman gets her face disfigured. So that's a pretty fun little pun there in the title.
Didn't make that connection.
Yeah, I know. Well, generally, most people wouldn't because that woman has like very little role in this film whatsoever.
Speaking of the opening, what a stereotypical low-budget early 90s movie film opening. It's like essentially Halloween 6's opening. Just like a very like cold opening, shitty like early 90s music, and then just like the fucking title card.
It's also very much more sinister and dark and brooding than most of the other openings for Death Wish. Like normally you get kind of like an upbeat music score to it, and this one is just black credits with like a brooding sort of like I don't know, like I don't even know what kind of I don't know if it's synth or what, but just kind of a brooding score altogether. Just it doesn't set like a fun tone for Death Wish.
Not like Death Wish 2 where you have Jimmy Page's amazing rockin' theme.
Jimmy Page playing the guitar like, you're gonna see a rape!
And then laying some thick synths down like boom, 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 boom.
No, it's not like fun, it's not jazzy, it's not
smooth. You don't have Herbie Hancock from the first film.
Yeah. No. But in general, Death Wish 5 is not... You gotta say, it's not really fucking around, because it's not really having much fun whatsoever. No one was thinking, like, well, let's make Death Wish 5 fun. Let's just get to the point.
They went the total opposite direction of 3 and 4, so that you have another tonal shit. Not only that, the film starts off, and it starts off running in what's going on. Like, it's almost like essentially, it's almost like, it's not Act 1, but it's not quite Act 2. You're thrown to Act 1.5. You're just thrown into a fashion show going on with some Irish mobster there, and Kersey just happens to fucking be there, and shit happens.
Yeah.
That's the first 15 minutes, and after that whole scenario happens, you're kind of like, what the fuck just happened? What did I just watch? Nothing made sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really...
They literally just throw you in...
Yeah, you don't really know what to think, too, because...
It's very disorienting.
Paul Kersey is sitting there, and he glances over to his left. He's sitting at a fashion show. He glances to his left. There's like a little 12-year-old girl sitting there, and it's a very creepy gaze at that time, because you're like, why is Paul Kersey, like, creepily looking at a 12-year-old girl in the audience. It comes to mean something later. Obviously it's his girlfriend's daughter.
He's got another one.
Yeah. But at this point in the movie, for him to kind of gaze over and give her a weird little smile, it's just a very odd thing to see at the beginning of the film.
He's gone from having his whole family killed and raped to he's going to do the same thing now.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the Death Wish films is that, they really have no regard for how a normal person would react to being every one of my girlfriends has been murdered, or...
Well, the first film has regard.
Yeah, the first film.
This one doesn't.
Yeah, no,
I mean the rest of them...
they just don't...
That's why
I care anymore.
As I say, that's why I said the first film has character development. Then the rest of the films are just him being the same character, except being more embracing vigilantism even more and more and more to the point where he's fucking Agent 43.
I still uphold my opinion that either Paul Kersey is seeking out these situations, he is looking. In this case, in Death Wish 5, this they call her a model queen or a runway queen, fashion designer queen. Her ex-husband is Tommy O'Shea, the famous Irish mobster who employs Italian guys to do his bidding, she's his ex-wife. So Paul Kersey, you've got to assume,
is saying dating material.
Yeah,
that's the kind of lady I want to get to know.
Yeah, did he do zero research? Because presumably a fashion model queen designer's life is pretty public. If she's that big of a person in New York City as a fashion designer,
not only that, everyone in the city knows Tommy O'Shea.
Yeah,
is a fucking scumbag mafioso.
Yeah.
Because you even have the cops say, we've been working on this case for 16 years. And Kersey's like, well, you did a fucking good job.
Yeah.
For 16 years and you haven't been able to put him away. So it's not... And again, that would mean, too, that when the first Death Wish film was happening... Because, I don't really think this film is set in 1994. Because with the whole scattershot of the timeline throughout the franchise... You would imagine that means Kersey would know about some hoods running around New York City because he's back in New York City again.
Yeah.
He would know. He would have known this guy. So it's not like he wouldn't have known if the cops have been trying to book him for 16 years but couldn't. He's famous
and he's been around. Yeah, he would have been around during the time that he was a vigilante in New York City. But you've got to think that Paul Kersey must be seeking this stuff out because there's no way that he's just happening upon it accidentally every single time.
He's acting I gotta get my revolver back out. And it's you fucking want to.
Yeah, you want to at this point.
Hey, stop it. Stop it. You don't care that this bitch died. You're just yeah, fuck it. Got a reason to load up my gun now and go, fucking on a fucking spree of just annihilating people.
Yeah, I think it's really funny because I don't buy Death Wish 5's entire plot at all. So we didn't mention that Death Wish 5 occurs it was filmed and released 7 years later after Death Wish 4. So Death Wish 4 was 1987 and now Death Wish 5 releases in 1994, which
the biggest gap since the first two films.
Yeah, since the first two films. It makes I guess it makes sense that they would want to return to it in a different era. But in this film, it doesn't really act like much has happened besides Paul has gone into a witness protection program.
Which makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense because not only does...
They don't explain how you even got there.
Right. Why would any cop say, you're a vigilante, you took the action into your own hands to kill criminals? Let's put you in a witness protection program. They would not care. They wouldn't care. Because he's murdered a bunch of people.
Is that what they're saying? So, as I was telling you at the end, at the end of Death Wish 4, you have the one cop say, stop it, Kersey, I was shooting. He's do what you want. And then you have, him just walking off. So does that mean the cop tried him out? I'm not going to shoot you, Kersey. We'll put you
in witness protection. It doesn't make sense. But again...
Where you're still an architect.
Yeah, he's still an architect in Death Wish 5, so even in Witness Protection, they changed nothing about him. They didn't try to make him look any different. They didn't even say, hey, Kersey, you should probably shave your mustache this time, because that's pretty iconic for you.
I know, your pencil-thin mustache. Yeah, they changed his name.
Now he's Paul Stewart.
Or Stanley. I don't
something like that.
They mention it. They barely mention it because everyone he's interacting with for the most part in the film are people that knows that he's Paul Kersey. Yeah. So they're all like, Kersey. Have you met Kersey? Kersey. Kersey.
They didn't do a very good job relocating him. First of all,
why would you put him back in New York City?
Out of all the cities, which are only 4 or whatever that he's been in, which were New York City, Chicago, L.A., and
that's it.
No, actually, that's it. 3. They yet again put him back in New York City for the third time.
And we don't even get to see him in Chicago. That's just at the end of Death Wish 1. He gets sent to Chicago.
Yeah, so. No one was using their brains putting him in Witness Protection.
You'd think that you would want to send him out to Butte, Montana.
Some place where it's get out of a city where, lots of crimes happen, because he probably will revert to his vigilante state if he sees crimes happening around him. Don't put him there. Also, don't give him $1 million mansion as a house, because why would you?
The house literally looks like a low rent version of the Godfather's house.
Yeah.
I'm just expecting the see him being Vito Corleone. Oh, my girlfriend, she's been raped and killed. I'm gonna make Tommy O'Shea an offer you can't film.
Also, the other thing that bothers me about this is that no witness protection program would be okay with their witness that they're protecting being I'm gonna get married to someone who's basically a celebrity in New York City. Yeah. They would be no, you cannot see her. You cannot be publicly seen.
And they would be constantly checking up on you, too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're dating a rich fat... Okay, no, it's fine.
No, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's just the beginning of the film. I mean, that's just the opening sequence of it, where you're minutes. Wait, what the fuck is going on? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But then from there, it just gets even crazier. It just nothing really comes together whatsoever.
You don't even understand how apparently the mob gets involved into this fashion and protection industry.
No, apparently
they don't even really explain it.
Yeah,
they just he's got control of everything because he's powerful.
Yeah, like you said, Death Wish 5 kind of envisions itself as a mock Godfather, where you see this. And again, it's very cloudy as to whether this is some sort of Italian mob. Is this an Irish gang?
I know, because everyone in the gang is essentially fucking Italian, except the head honcho. He's fucking Irish apparently. So it's so what are they? These Italians? They're not Sicilian. That's why they're not in the mafia. They're from Tuscany. They're from northern Italy. They're Yeah, it makes no sense. There's just no rhyme or reason to it. You'd think they'd be too warring, but no. You could have used the plot from the last film of the two warring, Yojimbo style, Kirsty trying to play the Irish and the Italian against each other, but not just
No, I think that one of Death Wish 5's biggest problems is that they don't really know how to work in the mob. They don't know how to write for mafia members. It's very
it's not thought out at all.
No, it's very messy. I will say that Michael Parks as main villain Tommy O'Shea does not sound Irish. I don't know what he's going for, but he doesn't sound Irish. He looks like Elton John.
All he's missing is his gap in his front teeth isn't big enough, but it's there.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, not very effective as a villain whatsoever. And also,
it seems like every line he's doing is fucking improv.
Yeah.
One scene, he says something, the guy's well, I'm mumbling like you mumble. And the guy's well, he's blah, 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 blah. It's and then it just transitions to the next scene. It's what bearing did that have? There's no development there. There's no story progression. There's no character. You just have him just shooting him. Like, apparently, like, maybe they actually had lines, and that's the take that they actually thought was good because he's just making fun of the guy. Like, you're supposed to be fucking reading your lines, but you're too busy mumbling, so I'm reading you.
Yeah.
It's
the villains in this film are just terrible. Just terrible. So
no depth.
No.
Shallow as ever. I mean, they're shallow and have no depth in like Death Wish 4, but they're fun. These villains aren't fun. They're so stereotypical. It's great. As you were saying, the one guy's fucking sitting there just constantly popping pills, like, every time he's nervous, because he's got apparently at like the last act of the film,
yeah.
like, got high blood pressure, but the entire time just sitting, like, shoving fucking pills into his mouth, and like...
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know he's a bad guy. He's sitting there fucking just throwing Tic Tacs down his throat.
Yeah, it's the film doesn't really understand how to do like bad guy characters. And it's really honestly a goofy film. It's really goofy.
Unintentionally.
Yeah, unintentionally, because this is really taken straight laced. Like, it's supposed to be a film where you're like, wow, those bad guys are really bad. And Paul Kersey's left with no choice but to go after them. It's like, no.
With a remote control soccer ball.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's so hard to talk about this film because it's all over the place. This picks up almost like with Death Wish 4. Because...
Where he's a hitman.
Because Paul Kersey, we've seen before, can just take his gun and go in and murder a lot of bad guys and have no worries about it. Like, he can just go in and do it. We've seen him do it before.
It's not Death Wish 1 anymore, where he's actually getting stabbed and hurt and wounded.
Yeah.
He's ascended to that level of being like a James Bond, where you know he's now untouchable.
Yeah.
Like, even if you do see him get hurt, kind of, it doesn't really.
Yeah, there's no real tension here that, like, he's a regular person at this point.
If anything, you're worrying about the fucking people around him. Like.
Yeah, because he's pretty reckless in this film, and about halfway through, when his fiancée dies, her daughter is supposed to be in Paul's custody, but Tommy O'Shea is able to get custody of the girl, so he takes her with him. And so you would think that Paul would be a little bit more careful. Like, he could murder her at any time. Tommy O'Shea could murder this daughter at any time. So maybe don't do things that would put her at risk, like murder off all of his henchmen. And
I even love the fact that the one informant for O'Shea, who's a cop, is even just flat out says, like, he's gonna go down, list, name by name on the list. Like, so it's like, well, so it's basically the film's even telling you, like, right here he knows what the rank and file of your group is, so just, he's gonna do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and what's Tommy O'Shea does? I don't care.
Yeah. He doesn't care whatsoever.
He just flat out, it's like, I don't give a shit.
I mean, I gotta say that Death Wish 5 is pretty dumb, because if you were Paul, you would probably not even bother to go after the rest of Tommy O'Shea's henchmen who don't seem like they have any sort of intelligence whatsoever.
We're gonna be fucked when
it doesn't. If you kill Tommy O'Shea, what are they gonna do? They're gonna be like chickens with their heads cut off. They're gonna be like, I don't know, we don't have a boss anymore. What? Yeah, I guess we disband.
None of his underlings are smart enough to be like, I'll take over whatever operation.
Yeah,
money laundering operations.
It's really stupid, and it kind of follows Death Wish 4. With Death Wish 4, like, he didn't really need to go person by person as a hitman. He could have just gone to the source. And the same thing happens with Death Wish 5. You're left wondering, like, why doesn't he just storm in to Tommy O'Shea's apartment? He's not protected, like, at all. Besides the fact, like, they try to make it seem like he is, but never do you see, like, a bunch of guards standing guard, like, oh, wow, he's really well protected. Not for Paul, at least. Not from what we've seen. But, we got to get some of those action scenes in somewhere. So Paul goes down the list of people and kind of just does things stealthily, even though it's not really necessary. One guy he kills by sneaking into an Italian restaurant and coating his cannoli with arsenic. as he scarfs it down like a bear.
Help!
Yeah.
So great. The guy's mom is the owner of the restaurant. She's just like, help! Help!
Yeah.
It's just, Mister, help me! Help! It's like they just hired somebody like, hey, can you just come in here and yell help?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other one that you brought up is Freddie Flakes gets exploded by a remote control soccer ball that Paul buys at a toy store. Now,
on Christmas season in Rockefeller Center.
That's right. We're shown Christmas season in Rockefeller Center, and then we see Paul in a toy store that is completely empty. And I was just sitting here thinking, well, this is wrong. I've been to Rockefeller Center during Christmas time. It is fucking packed. In a toy store, no less, he would not be able to drive a soccer ball around with a remote control. He would not be able to move. It would be like Jingle All the Way. If the soccer ball was the big thing that year, he'd be like getting pushed aside by old ladies. Like I gotta get my grandson a soccer ball remote.
But I mean, like, why? It's like the greatest question of this film. Why is there a remote control soccer ball? What point is there to have a remote control soccer ball? What do you do with a remote control soccer? As you said, can you kick it? Is it? I mean, like, what do you?
Yeah,
it literally makes no sense for him to be like, I got a soccer ball, I can just drive around, you know.
I don't really know about the 90s, but I find it hard to believe that anybody was selling a remote control soccer ball at that time.
I had remote control cars. I never had a remote control.
What it looks like is that somebody jerry-rigged a remote control car and made it into a soccer ball for this film.
Probably, but yeah, it makes no sense. Like, why wouldn't you just do a remote control car? You can do a remote control car.
Yeah.
Or as you said, he could have just bought a fucking soccer ball, and when he goes to the guy, because the guy's up schizophrenic, paranoid, schizophrenic, and, you know, he values his protection. He wants to be like he's in the womb of his mom, as the film eloquently puts it.
So he has a high-tech security system,
which Kersey doesn't even fucking know about. Doesn't even know. Apparently, just assumed that he would have, you know, this guy would have it. And instead of just like throwing a fucking soccer ball on like on
the property, making the alarm go off.
That has like a bomb on it, and the guy just sees like, what the fuck's a soccer ball, and pick it up and blast him. No, he's got a remote control one. Has the guy run around the fucking property 2 times chasing it, and then he finally lets him just grab the ball. He's like, hey! And then he just blows it up in his fucking face.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid. Not only that, you mentioned too how when Kersey shows up and sets the alarm off, the guy's in the bathtub with his girlfriend, her titties flopping around. That's the one thing this film's got is fucking titties.
Yeah.
And she's got her titties hanging out, and he's got his head on him, and he's in the bathtub, and he hears it. He's like, I'll be right back. And what's he do? Runs outside wearing fucking leather pants and like a button up in a vest that's like, as you said, like, really? After being in the bathtub, he just slipped on fucking leather pants?
Yeah.
I've never worn leather pants before.
That really bothers me.
But I know for a fact.
I can't imagine that it's easy to be all wet and then get in leather pants.
They should have had like a SpongeBob, like 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, Paul is probably outside just playing around with a soccer ball, waiting for him to get his leather pants on.
Just juggling around.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I can't imagine that it's easy to be all wet and then put on leather pants. That bothers me. That's part of like this film's like
twisted logic.
Yeah, that really bothers me. I don't understand how that works.
Not only that. Oh, speak of like poor Danny Trejo level effect. This is the equivalent for this death.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't listen the last time, when in Death Wish 4, the big young breakout star of that film is Danny Trejo, and Kersey brings a bomb to the table, and he gets sat down, and he splashes some water on him and runs away, and a bomb goes off, and you have this terrible explosion effect.
Yep.
And like basically, you could have like Trejo holding like a Wile E. Coyote sign, like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
Same thing happens in this film. When the guy picks up the bomb, he's like, hey, your time's up. And the bomb goes off. First off, he's like, no! And then the bomb goes off, and it's a terrible fake explosion. And instead of him being blown up, no, he's caught on fire, and then he's just running around. It's fucking
Yeah.
awful.
It is terrible.
It's so bad.
But I think this film is really reaching for new levels of deaths because
But there's not that many though overall.
there isn't. But like when Paul finally infiltrates the factory where Tommy O'Shea does all of his business, which is like a mannequin factory,
which is the set for Kazam.
Yeah.
And Mask and every other like early 90s film that has like a warehouse scene in it.
Yeah.
You can easily see Cameron Diaz being tied up in there, and you can easily see Shaq, being a genie in there. With that blue lighting and that you're just stereotyping.
Smoky.
Yeah.
Yeah. With like this one though, there's like a plastic wrap machine, and Paul forces one of Tommy O'Shea's henchmen to like stand on the packing wrap, whatever it is, like circle where they would pack things, and just have him get wrapped up with the plastic until he's totally covered in plastic, and then hangs him on a garment machine. Like that is not why?
He's not a vigilante anymore.
No.
Because he's using torture because he suffocates the guy until he's like, "Do you want to talk?" And then he finally lets him breathe, and because he wants to know where his dead fiance's daughter is now. So it's not like you're not a vigilante anymore. Now you're using you're torturing the guy.
Yeah, as you said, he's more of a psychopath now. Like when he just smiles and cackles to himself after blowing up the guy with the soccer ball. It's like apparently that was just fun for him. He didn't need to do it, but
it's Kevin McAllister when he's 50 years old, just like
apparently it didn't. That was just something he did for fun. He didn't really have to do it, but might as well. He bought the soccer ball. Might as well blow it up in his face. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just everything about Death Wish 5 is really goofy at this point. It even features one of the characters in drag for not really any reason. I don't know. This film really takes itself seriously.
With a dandruff problem. They make sure you know that character has a dandruff issue.
And why? Because it comes up not at all.
Well, because when he blows up the soccer ball in his face, like, this will take care of your dandruff.
Yeah. It matters not at all.
Because in the fourth film they did mention like some character things when the guy's running down like the dossiers of each of like the hitman.
Yeah.
Like he
gives him like a whole listing of this guy.
Yeah, like character traits for him. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah. Like I say, he's fucking like Hitman, Age of 43 or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say that I do feel bad for Charles Bronson in this film. Because he really seems like he doesn't care about it.
I don't feel bad for him because he said yes. Yeah. He didn't have to do the film.
Well, he's getting old at this point, and you can really tell in this film that he's getting old.
You can tell he's old and tired.
He is, yeah.
You expect him to come out for like an AARP or Wilford Brimley like diabetes commercial.
Yeah, his face is pretty puffy.
Yeah.
He's looking real old in this film. And some of the other ones, they were hiding it a little bit. Like, he was still old in Death Wish 4.
He was still old in Death Wish 2.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they were able to hide it a little bit. But in this film, I'm not saying this to be mean or anything, but as an action hero for this film, he's looking very old. He's looking very out of shape. And they don't really have him do many stunts that would like require him to actually do.
Well, I was gonna say too. It's not. I wouldn't say that's really mean because that's the same thing with like Roger Moore in his last two Bond films.
Yeah,
Octopussy and A View to Kill, especially A View to Kill. You can tell he's old.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable how old he is, and like then in that film, he's with I can't remember her. It's Tammy something. The Donna's mom from That 70s Show.
I don't know her name.
She's the Bond girl in like A View to a Kill.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell like she's like 20 in that film, and Roger Moore's in his late 50s. You can tell like how uncomfortable and cringeworthy like the interaction is, and and you can, like I said, you can tell like he looks just how. It's half the reason why that film's so miserable because it's like he's so old he can't even like buy into him into the role anymore.
Yeah, and I mean this was one of Charles Bronson's last films. I think he did a couple more, but really, this was like
Yeah,
some of his last films.
He's even in his mid-50s when he did Death Wish.
Yeah. I mean, he was old doing all of the Death Wish films, really. Older doing all of the Death Wish films, and you can really, really tell in this one. And it's just, it kind of takes you out of it because you see like, wow.
Yeah.
He's looking really
You can't
old
buy
now.
into him being a vigilante anymore.
No, not really. Not really. Even though you have to, like you're thinking like, well, he's not going to die in this. He's going to be fine. But still, I don't buy that he's going to actually be able to like infiltrate a factory and do any sort of stunts.
I mean, it's funny when he punches Tommy O'Shea in the one scene when they take the kid away.
Yeah.
And Tommy O'Shea's reaction is like, oh, he's a quick son of a bitch. It's
yeah.
And it's like, I couldn't see that uppercut probably coming from a mile away if I was, being truthful. Like,
yeah, I think that with this film, they didn't really have him do any sort of stunt sequences that I can think of.
No.
You have like the bomb, which requires him to do like no
The cannoli
stunt. Yeah, the cannolis.
Nothing.
I think that's kind of why they went more for that stealth base, even though it doesn't really fit with the whole theme of the film. They still went for that stunt or the stealth based kills, and because he was old at that point, you couldn't really do any more stunt sequences, so you don't get any. But anything else you've got that you want to add about Death Wish 5 before we go into ratings and stuff like that?
That's about it.
That's about it.
It's a sad way to end the franchise. I would have been fine if Death Wish 4 was the end. I think that would have been a fine enough send off. Like, okay, yeah, he's gone from vigilante to hitman now, so now he's just a hitman.
Yeah, I mean,
and just leave it at that.
The thing with Death Wish 5 is you've got to kind of ask like why. Why now in 1994 were you thinking like we need to do a fifth Death Wish film? Because this is a very cheaply made film too.
$5 million.
Yeah. You can tell that this is in the 90s. Like this is one of those films that would be like... You can
tell.
Yeah.
It's totally an early 90s low budget film.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's got all the hallmarks. The blue lighting, the terrible sets.
Yeah.
As you said, like the one
street view definitely looks like a set. Where it's just... Yeah. You could tell that it was a set. Yeah, and it only uses a few different settings, too. Because of that. Because it's a set. And you don't get very many settings whatsoever. You get like an apartment building, you get a restaurant, you get the factory, you get his house. And that's about it. I think that's probably due to the low budget, but I don't know. I mean, you just gotta wonder why. Like, who is clamoring for another sequel to Death Wish at this point?
It's, from what I'm reading right now, it's all just because of video sales.
VHS sales at the time?
And, like, rentals, yeah.
Yeah.
Just, like, the franchise was,
Yeah.
Because you gotta think, too, like, even in the early 90s, it's, VHS has been around for a while, but, I mean, like, that's,
prime renting
is starting to become like a really big thing.
Yeah, exactly.
As you would know, because your dad owned a video rental store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. That does make sense. And I'm assuming that probably, like, this was a big time for horror and action films, because when you're renting those films, you got like the whole, if you think you got the action set up for you and you see all the VHS tapes, like those, the box art itself is really selling these films. And so, if you've got all 5 Death Wish films on the shelf, people are going to rent those. People are going to... Like, I can absolutely see why that would be a big selling point for someone to want to make Death Wish 5. Not so much because they were like, you know what, we need another good film in the series. But because they were like, we need to sell some movies on the rental shelf and on VHS.
Because the film only made like $1.5 million at the box office.
Yeah.
So
it didn't even make back its
not
budget.
Not even close. It made 1/5 of its budget.
Yeah.
So it's
that makes sense. The VHS aspect of it, makes sense. Was it a good idea? Probably not. And you're right. Death Wish 4 probably would have been the best, because then you don't have to go off with like thinking, like, wow, Charles Bronson looks really old in the Death Wish.
You could have enjoyed him in Death Wish 4
yeah,
for what
exactly.
you could have enjoyed it for what it was, because the last 3 and 4 are incredibly campy.
Yeah.
And I mean, 3's, like I said, 3's a parody for the most part. It comes off as. It takes that, and takes the original idea, hams it up, knows what it's doing, and, being tongue-in-cheek, and same thing with 4. 4 is like, okay, it's the late 80s now, this is the type of film that people, this is like the new exploitive type of film of the late 80s, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with Death Wish 5. It's like, this is like the exploitive film of the early 90s, fucking filming in a warehouse somewhere.
And really, Death Wish 5 was his final actual movie, because the 3 other ones, which were Family of Cops and its 2 sequels, were TV movies. So really, this was his last actual...
And what a sad way for him to go out
cinema film, yeah. I don't know. It is sad to see this, because we've watched it.
That's going to be Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Malcolm McDowell.
Transformers. I mean,
that's so great when you said, somebody posted on Twitter, oh, so Anthony Hopkins is doing this.
Yeah, they roped Anthony Hopkins into this now for Transformers. Yep.
It's like he got knighted and now he just doesn't care. Yeah. Fuck it.
He does whatever. Yeah, I mean, we've watched Death Wish, throughout as a, binging it kind of. And you can definitely see the progression of Charles Bronson getting older and then really looking haggard in Death Wish 5. So it's a sad way to go. And I would have preferred, and probably most people do prefer to just do the 4. And then Death Wish 5 didn't really happen. But
we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Just exile it.
That's one we forget about.
It's probably why they don't ever play it on TV.
Yeah. I don't know. It is not a very memorable film at all. So yeah. And for anybody looking for a recommendation, I definitely would recommend you skip it. Because it's not a good movie at all. It's pretty terrible. And like we were saying, not really sure if it's better or worse than Death Wish 2.
I think it's worse.
I think it's worse too. I do think it's worse. It's not really fun. It's not really...
we mentioned some little funny parts, but it's
a chore to watch. Really, it feels like it takes forever.
Death Wish 2 is a chore to watch too, but at the same time, I just think I could find myself watching Death Wish 2 more. Just the overall, because there's again, I'll watch Death Wish 2 just for the fucking opening credits alone. Just like I said, I love Jimmy Page's theme in that. I think it's fucking great. But I mean. And that one doesn't feel... I mean, like I said, I agree. They're both chores to watch, but I think this one's slightly more of a chore. It's not by much, but it's...
You know what we forgot to mention, too? Is this is back to Roman numerals.
I didn't even notice that.
It's back to Roman numerals.
God damn.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, so...
Can't even finish off consistently.
No, you can't. So out of 10 exploding soccer ball remote control soccer balls, what would you give Death Wish 5?
Probably
the Face of Death.
Probably a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Yeah, it's probably about where I would give it to. I mean, it's not even mediocre. It's below mediocre.
It's definitely bad. It's definitely in the bad territory.
Yeah,
and
none of it really screams like they put a whole lot of work into it. From the writing of it, because it doesn't even... Again,
half the dialogue doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really need to even have the Death Wish 5 moniker on it, because this could be just a film about a guy.
Well, we said that about all the others, every sequel. They could have every sequel in this franchise could have just been a standalone.
Yeah, film. It could have been. It could have just been a different Charles Bronson movie.
Because all it is the same premise. Charles Bronson has a significant other. Significant other gets either raped, killed, something of that. Then that drives him to fight crime.
Yep.
You don't need it to be Paul Kersey, the unluckiest man in the world, to have this shit either happened to him or he, follows it or he attracts it.
Yeah, it would actually make more sense if he wasn't Paul Kersey in this.
Well, he's not.
He's Paul Stewart. Yeah. But I mean, it would make more sense because, yeah, now it seems like he's seeking this out. He wants this to happen. So
he's just betting on it now. Like, come on.
He's
I'm not gonna date that girl. She doesn't have enough.
There's not enough bad things that could happen to her. You need to actually date somebody that's in trouble. Yeah, I would give it a 4 out of 10 too. It doesn't have a great rating on IMDb either. 4.7 out of 10.
That's generous.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that they really should have left it at Death Wish 4.
Such a sad way, though. Like I said, I mean, it's because, again, as we talked about earlier about when we kind of retrospected the rest of our reviews, it's like, holy shit. It's the point of the original has been completely lost.
Yeah, it's lost, totally.
It's completely lost and gone, bastardized.
Color me upset that there's not even a rape in this one. That's a joke, but there is a woman who serves no purpose besides getting maimed and then murdered.
Her murder is great though, because Kersey's in a fucking hallway when they're sitting there blasting away with shotguns and submachine guns, doesn't get hit.
Yep.
Chick's running away, all of a sudden the guy's a sharpshooter and picks her off, and
shoots her in the back off a building. Yeah.
Just great logic,
great. And then she lands and dies, but Paul jumps off the building and lands in a gigantic pile of trash bags. I think he did it on purpose.
He just wanted her to die. He's like, all right, now I got an excuse.
Yeah, we got to get rid of her now.
I didn't really want to save her. I just, wanted... Yeah.
All right, so what are we doing? We're finished with the Death Wish series. That's it. We're complete. We did it. So... what's our next film? We talked about it a little bit. I think we're gonna forgo the series for now and kind of do some standalone episodes. And we're gonna get back to horror territory. I think we talked about doing a giallo next time.
Yeah.
I think we talked about doing What Have You Done to Solange?
I don't remember what you said, but you said it would be a giallo.
Yep. And I think next time we'll do What Have You Done to Solange? And that is an Italian giallo recently released by Arrow Video on Blu-ray. So I think it's a fun one to do. And we'll get back to kind of the roots of the Blood and Black Rum podcast, which we had previously started this podcast to do giallo, and we have only really done Tenebrae. And then we'll go from there. We also mentioned perhaps doing The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Tomb, which is I really like that film a lot. And I think we will hold off on doing some of the series until a little bit later. We're coming up to St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So obviously we need to do Leprechaun 2. Fortunately, the great Jennifer Aniston is absent from that one.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
Yeah.
Shame.
Unless you want to do like Leprechaun in the Hood.
No, you can't.
Which I can tell you is a horrible movie.
I have not watched that. I think I've seen only the first 3 Leprechauns.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I've seen 1 and 2. I think I've seen 3 as well. I haven't seen Leprechaun in the Hood. I haven't seen Back to the Hood. I haven't seen Leprechaun in Space.
I've not seen Back to the Hood or In Space. I can honestly say that I don't really like any Leprechaun movie. Well, I don't think any of them are good.
No. And if you remember when we did the first Leprechaun, I was like, I do not remember this being this bad. I remember it being bad. I don't remember it being that bad.
Yeah.
Because that you talk about films that only like 80 minutes long, and what a fucking chore it was.
Yeah, it feels like it takes forever. Leprechaun 2, I don't really remember that well.
It's probably this. Well, how different can you get?
Yeah.
Lost his goddamn Lucky Charm, and,
Yeah.
Shenanigans ensue. I'd rather watch the fucking Chucky series. And that way you get to see Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think we'll do Leprechaun 2 coming up to St. Patrick's Day.
There's one I want to do.
What's that?
We're going to do Dread.
Oh, yeah, you wanted to do Dread. We'll probably do that in a few weeks because we'll kind of like give it a little time from the action.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I know. That's why.
Yeah.
But no, we'll do some horror, then we'll go back to something good.
Yeah.
Something pure.
That's right.
Get to see Bones McCoy as Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd. Which I've never seen.
For those who don't know, I'm not talking about Sly Stallone's Judge Dredd, which we'll do another day.
But the newer one.
Don't worry, because that's a great film in and of its own. There's a string of great 90s Sly Stallone action films like that.
Yeah.
That are literally like the same film over and over again that you need to see.
Yeah.
Because Judge Dredd is one. Demolition Man's another one.
Demolition Man, yeah.
That one's
Universal
fucking great.
Soldier. That reminds me of.
No, that's Jean-Claude.
No, I know it is.
But we should do that.
Because
we should also do the sequel, too, because that also has Bill Goldberg in it.
Yeah.
Who will be,
And I want to bring up, too, Scream Factory is releasing... Well, it's actually, I guess, Shout Factory, because it's not horror, but they're releasing RoboCop 2 and 3 on Blu-ray, which I will be getting... I believe it's in March. Those are coming out, so we should probably work on that for the next series. RoboCop 1, 2, and 3.
In the remake.
No!
Because that one, too. See, that if you're a long-time listener, then you know the RoboCop remake has been one of the... You know what? That might be our anniversary. We'll see. Perfect. I already booked it. Booked it for us. For our anniversary month,
yeah,
we'll do RoboCop. We'll do a RoboCop month, leading to, for our anniversary, it'll land on...
Which I believe is
like... RoboCop remake.
June or July. Yeah.
So
we've got big plans in store. To kind of take it on the administrative level, which I normally do at the end of the episode. You can catch us on iTunes, which is probably the easiest way to hear our podcasts and download them. We hope you subscribe and leave us a nice 5-star review, and we appreciate hearing from you on that. Also, we're on different kinds of apps like Stitcher and any Android apps that you use. You can listen to us on there as well. Any podcast apps, really, we're on. We're also on SoundCloud, which you can follow us on there. Give us a like for each of our episodes. We really appreciate that. That's where our episodes go up first, so you actually get a little bit of a jump start on the podcast if you follow us on SoundCloud. We're on Twitter. It's @BloodAndBlackRum with an N. And you can tweet us on there, follow us, let us know what you think about the show. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. And we also have a group as well. So if you want to join the group, it's a little bit easier to have discussions in there. Just search for us. It's on there as a group. We have an email. You can email us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate any suggestions that you have for us. You can let us know what kind of films that you want to see us cover on the next episodes. So give us a shout. We love to hear from you. We're also on Patreon. And Patreon is a service that you can subscribe to. You can donate to us as much or as little as you want. We have certain goal levels that you will get specific things for if you reach that monthly donation. So for $1, we'll give you a shout out, and $5 will let you pick some movies that we'll cover. $10 we'll do a whole script reading, things like that. We're also looking to do some bonus episodes for Patreon subscribers if we get enough. So keep that in mind. Help us out with donations. It helps us keep the podcast running. So we really appreciate anybody who can give to us for there, but it's definitely not a necessity. You don't have to give any money. We're happy to do this for free. So thanks for listening. Like I said, next week we'll be back with the Jello What Have You Done to Solange? And in subsequent episodes, we will be doing Jello, action, like Dread, and even more. So thank you for listening to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. We hope to see you next time. I've been Ryan, and this is Martin.
How's it going? Take care, guys.
Take care.